Today is August 11th, 2025. This is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
And we read the Psalms yesterday in the weekend edition.
Right, and now we're back in Joshua.
Yep, and we are going to read Joshua 9 and 10 today. And this is in the first half of the book of Joshua.
Right, so 1 through 12
is conquering the land.
Yep, all the battles.
And 13 through 24 is
settling the land.
Yep. And so what we see is Israel receiving the promises, believing the promises, and conquering the cities. And so we were preparing for this, Yvonne, you were talking about how each city seems to devise a different strategy trying to fight against Israel.
Right, because I think they're all very afraid. They know that Israel has a very powerful God fighting for them. And so they try to come up with schemes to not get conquered.
Yep. And so let's look at the Gibeonite scheme here in chapter 9. As soon as all the kings who were beyond the Jordan in the hill country and in the lowland, all along the coast of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites heard of this, that is, heard of their conquering, right? They gathered together as one to fight against Joshua and Israel.
But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and to Ai, they, on their part, acted with cunning and went and made ready provisions, and took worn-out sacks for their donkeys and wineskins, worn out and torn and mended, with worn-out patched sandals on their feet and worn-out clothes. And all their provisions were dry and crumbly. And they went to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal and said to him, to the men of Israel, they're lying here, "We have come from a distant country, so now make a covenant with us." But the men of Israel said to the Hivites, which I guess are the Gibeonites, "Perhaps you live among us. Then how can we make a covenant with you?" So they suspected.
Yeah, there's their first hunch, right? They just kind of knew something was fishy.
Right. They said to Joshua, "We are your servants." And Joshua said to them, "Who are you, and where do you come from?" They said to him, "From a very distant country your servants have come, because of the name of the Lord your God."
There's a flat, bold lie.
Yeah, and they're trying to show that they honor God, too.
Yeah.
"For we have heard a report about him and all that he did in Egypt and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon, the king of Heshbon, and to Og, the king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth. So our elders and all the inhabitants of our country said to us, 'Take provisions in your hand for the journey and go to meet them and say to them, "We are your servants. Come now, make a covenant with us. Here is our bread. It was still warm when we took it from our houses as our food for the journey on the day we set out to come to you. But now, behold, it is dry and crumbly."
Just more and more lies they're piling up upon themselves.
"These wineskins were new when we filled them, and behold, they have burst. And these garments and sandals of ours are worn out from the very long journey."
Yeah, and before this you had talked about how all the different cities have different strategies about trying to fight against Israel. And here's their strategy, basically to lie.
Right.
We're from a long, faraway country, but they're actually close by. And it worked.
Yeah. So the men, that would be the men of Israel, took some of their provisions, but did not ask counsel from the Lord.
They did not pray.
And Joshua made peace with them and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the leaders of the congregation swore to them.
At the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, and this, by the way, is going to be huge. We're going to see later on just the fact that they made this covenant with them. They're going to keep this covenant with them at great harm to themselves as a nation. That's how binding covenants were in those days. Which leads us to the Abrahamic covenant and the covenant that God makes with us, how binding this covenant is. So at the end of 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, they heard that they were their neighbors and that they lived among them. And the people of Israel set out and reached their cities on the third day. Now, their cities were Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the people of Israel did not attack them because the leaders of the congregation had sworn to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. Then all the congregation murmured against the leaders. But all the leaders said to all the congregation, "We have sworn to them by the Lord, the God of Israel, and now we may not touch them. This we will do to them. Let them live, lest wrath be upon us, because of the oath that we swore to them." And the leaders said to them, well, here's their punishment, "Well, let them live." And then So they became cutters of wood and drawers of water for all the congregation, just as the leaders had said to them.
Because they said, we are your servants.
Yep. And you always need people to cut the wood, so you have energy to burn for your cooking, and you always need drawers of water to bring the water to the homes and every place. These are manual labor jobs that needed to be done.
Right. Verse 22, Joshua summoned them, and he said to them, why did you deceive us, saying, we are very far from you, when you dwell among us? Now therefore, you are cursed, and some of you shall never be anything but servants, cutters of wood and drawers of water for the house of my God. They answered Joshua, because...
Okay, here's the truth.
Right, so here's why they were cunning and lied. Because it was told to your servants for a certainty that the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses. Wow, they knew a lot. Mm-hmm. Commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land from before you. So we feared greatly for our lives because of you, and we did this thing. And now behold, we are in your hand. Whatever seems good and right in your sight to do to us, do it. So he did this to them and delivered them out of the hand of the people of Israel, and they did not kill them. But Joshua made them that day cutters of wood and drawers of water for the congregation and for the altar of the Lord to this day in the place that he should choose.
Yep, so if you remember Joshua 9, just by the Gibeon deceit, you could do that. Or I have the fearing Gibeonites deceive the non-praying Israelites. That's just like a nice, yeah. And I like that's woodcutters and water carriers. That kind of rhymes a little bit. That might be a good thing to remember. Okay, and then in chapter 10, we see sort of a continuation of the story. And as soon as Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard how Joshua had captured Ai and had devoted it to destruction, doing to Ai and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, he feared greatly because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were warriors. So here was this great, powerful city in the land of Palestine, and had made peace, and so he feared. So Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, king of Hebron, to Piram, king of Jarmuth, and Japhia, king of Lachish, and to Deber, king of Eglon, saying, come up to me and help me, and let us strike Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the people of Israel. It's like there's this big alliance, and they're going to conquer Gibeon. Then 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and the king of Eglon, gathered their forces and went up with all their armies and encamped against Gibeon and made war against it.
And the men of Gibeon sent to Joshua at the camp in Gilgal, saying, do not relax your hand from your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites who dwell in the hill country are gathered against us.
This is a little bit like NATO. Attack on one NATO country is attack on all of them. And attack on Gibeon because of the covenant is attack on Israel.
Right. So Joshua went up from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. And the Lord said to Joshua, do not fear them, for I have given them into your hand. Not a man of them shall stand before you. So Joshua came upon them suddenly, having marched up all night from Gilgal. And the Lord threw them into a panic before Israel, who struck them with a great blow at Gibeon, and chased them by the way of the ascent of Beth-horon, and struck them as far as Azekah and Makkedah. And as they fled before Israel, while they were going down the ascent of Beth-horon, the Lord threw down large stones from heaven on them as far as Azekah, and they died. So, is that giant hailstones, I guess?
Yeah.
And enough to kill
large
them.
Stones, yeah.
Yikes.
And hailstones, it says here, yep.
There were more men who died because of the hailstones than the sons of Israel killed with the sword.
Yep, so we see just the Lord fighting for people of Israel, just like at Jericho. Verse 10, the Lord threw them into a panic, and then verse 11, the Lord threw down these large stones. At that time Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over to the sons of Israel, and he said in the sight of Israel, sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation took vengeance on their enemies. Is it not written in the book of Jashar? The sun stopped in the midst of heaven and did not hurry to set for about a whole day. There has been no day like it before or since when the Lord heeded the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. Just really interesting here is that God listened to the voice of a man as answered prayer, and they didn't pray in chapter 9, verse 14, seeking advice about the Gibeonites. God surely would have answered them at that point, right? Just James even speaks about you do not have because you do not ask.
Right.
They didn't ask, so therefore they didn't have.
Also, I was just noticing these miraculous hailstones in verse 11. So God was fighting for them with the hailstones. And then here in verse 14, or this whole section, 12 through 15, God fought for them by holding the sun still longer. So like the day lasted longer.
Yep, I have no idea how that happened on the earth with the earth spinning around and it stopped, or I have no idea.
Yeah.
But
okay, so verse 15. So Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal.
And these 5 kings fled and hid themselves in the cave at Makkedah. And it was told to Joshua, the 5 kings had been found hiding in the cave at Makkedah. And Joshua said, roll large stones against the mouth of the cave and set men by it to guard them. But do not stay there yourselves. Pursue your enemies. Attack their rear guard. Do not let them enter the cities, for the Lord your God has given them into your hand. Again, just an affirmation of God's sovereignty in fighting to obtain the land of Israel. And when Joshua and the sons of Israel had finished striking them with a great blow until they were wiped out, and when the remnant that remained of them had entered into the fortified cities, then all the people returned safe to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah. Not a man moved his tongue against any of the people of Israel.
Then Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring those 5 kings out to me from the cave. And they did so, and brought those 5 kings out to him from the cave, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon. And when they brought those kings out to Joshua, Joshua summoned all the men of Israel and said to the chiefs of the men of war who had gone with him, come near, put your feet on the necks of these kings. Then they came near and put their feet on their necks.
Just like a sign of conquering.
Yeah. And Joshua said to them, do not be afraid or dismayed. Be strong and courageous, for thus the Lord will do to all your enemies against whom you fight. And afterward Joshua struck them and put them to death, and he hanged them on 5 trees. And they hung on the trees until evening. But at the time of the going down of the sun, Joshua commanded, and they took them down from the trees and threw them into the cave where they had hidden themselves, and they set large stones against the mouth of the cave, which remain to this very day.
As for Makkedah, Joshua captured it on that day and struck it and its king with the edge of the sword. He devoted to destruction every person in it. He left none remaining. And he did to the king of Makkedah just as he had done to the king of Jericho. Okay, and then the ESV here says the conquest of southern Canaan. And so the way Israel, right, they conquered in the middle, and then they went south, and we're going to see in chapter 11, then they go north. But Jericho is right in the middle, and so now we're just going to see, we've seen some detailed stories about Jericho and Ai and these kings that attacked Gibeon, and now we're just going to get a summary of all the land conquered.
Okay, verse 29. Then Joshua and all Israel with him passed on from Makkedah to Libnah and fought against Libnah. And the Lord gave it also and its king into the hand of Israel. And he struck it with the edge of the sword and every person in it. He left none remaining in it. And he did to its king as he had done to the king of Jericho.
Then Joshua and all Israel with him passed on from Libnah to Lachish and laid siege to it and fought against it. And again, right, the Lord gave Lachish into the hand of Israel, and he captured it on the second day and struck it with the edge of the sword and every person in it as he had done to Libnah.
Then Horam, king of Gezer, came up to help Lachish, and Joshua struck him and his people until he left none remaining.
And then Joshua and all Israel with him passed on from Lachish to Eglon, and they laid siege to it and fought against it. And they captured it on that day and struck it with the edge of the sword. He devoted every person in it to destruction that day, as he had done to Lachish.
Then Joshua and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron, and they fought against it, and captured it, and struck it with the edge of the sword, and its king, and its towns, and every person in it. He left none remaining, as he had done to Eglon, and devoted it to destruction, and every person in it.
And then Joshua and all Israel with him turned back to Debir, and fought against it. And he captured it with its kings and all its towns, and they struck them with the edge of the sword, and he devoted to destruction every person in it. He left none remaining, just as he had done to Hebron, and to Libnah, and to its king. And so he did to Debir, and to its king. Okay, so here's the big summary.
Okay, verse 40. So Joshua struck the whole land, the hill country and the Negeb, and the lowland and the slopes, and all their kings. He left none remaining, but devoted to destruction all that breathed, just as the Lord God of Israel commanded. And Joshua struck them from Kadesh Barnea as far as Gaza, and all the country of Goshen as far as Gibeon. And Joshua captured all these kings and their land at one time, because the Lord God of Israel fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal.
I think that's one of the big points of Joshua 1 through 12, is that the Lord is the one who gave them the victory of the land.
Yeah.
The Lord God of Israel fought for Israel.
It's there in verse 42. It's there in verse 14.
It's there in verse 30.
The Lord gave. 30 and 32.
32. Like, it's all over. The Lord was the one who gave. And so lest Israel think that by their might and their power did it, it was the hand of the Lord that did it, conquer the land and gave them the success. That's why the people of Kadesh Barnea should have believed.
Right.
And these people did believe, to their commendation.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, they did.
And we'll see you tomorrow as they conquer the northern kings.
All right.
Okay,
Goodbye.
bye-bye.